Hello viewers and listeners out there. Welcome to another lesson for the lower grades. Today's lesson is definition and properties of common solid shapes. And the shapes that we are going to look into are three: cube, cuboid, and a cone. In your previous lesson, you learned about how to identify and name objects that have the shape of a cube, objects that have the shape of cuboid, and objects that have the shapes of a cone. Today we are going to discuss about their definition and their properties. We start with the cube. Now, if you look at the message that we have for you on the screen, we said we are going to talk about the definition of the shape and its properties. What is a cube? A cube is a solid shape. A cube is a solid shape. Remember we said solid shapes are also called three-dimensional shapes because you can view them in 3 dimensions. Okay? It has 6 flat sides. Now here we are trying to describe how the cube is like. Let's just discuss what is on the screen and we can confirm it from the object itself and see whether what is said about the cube is true or false. We are told that it has 6 flat sides. So a cone has 6 flat sides. We'll investigate to tell or false. The sides are all equal. I repeat, the sides of the cube are all equal. And what is this flat side we're talking about? The flat side of the cube here, faces that are put together to give you that solid object called the cube. Now also, I want you to know that a cube has 8 corners. A cube has 8 corners, also called. We will investigate that from the object. Now, before we can cover other objects that can be termed as cubes in our households or in our communities, can we investigate some of the properties that we have just mentioned about the cone? This is a box, and the box I have in my hand is a cube. Now this is an example of a cube. Remember we said a cube is a solid object or a solid shape. So if we look at the parts that are used to build up this object, obviously we can say it is what? A solid object. Among the properties again, we said that it has 6 sides or 6 faces. Confirm that. We start from this side. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. Can we count again? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. I want us to count again. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Many faces? We have 6. Also, we made mention that it has how many corners or vertices? We said it has 8 corners. We count to be sure that there are 8 corners in a cube. Can we do that together? I start from here. We have 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Can we take it again, please? You count with me, please. How many corners? We are told a cube has 8 corners. Faces, and it is also a solid object. The next thing I'm going to challenge you is I would like you to take these seconds to tell what are some objects that are in the shape. Can you look around your households and tell what other objects can we term as cubes if they have the features of a cube? Okay, now let's move to the next slide and see what we have. We have some of the counters that we lock together. Remember, they are in the form of a counters are used for counting during our math lessons. If you lock them up, they can give you the shape because they have the features of a cube. So counters can be used. Also, we have an object that we use in playing a particular game. As you can see on the screen, we have these two objects with the green color. They resemble an object used in playing a game, and the game is called Lido. Which object is that? Normally put in that cylindrical tin and then knock on the surface of the Lido. How do we call that object, please? It is called a die. Plural is dice. So the dice or the die look exactly like a cube. Why is the die or dice termed as a cube? It is termed as a cube because it has 6 flat squared faces with 8 corners. I repeat, the die is termed as a cube because it has 8 corners and 6 faces. I hope you will not forget that. If you want to justify what I have just said, just take a die if you have it by your side and count how many faces are there. You will come to realize that it has 6 faces. Again, don't stop on the faces. Count the number of corners it has and see whether they are up to 8. Be rest assured, if you do that, you will get 6 faces and 8 corners. And any shape that has those qualities, 6 equal faces with 8 corners, such an object or a shape can be termed as a cube. The next object is a cuboid. Cuboid. They look alike, but not in all aspects. There are some things that differentiated them. I can take you back a little bit to the cube. I said the cube is made out of what? Squared faces. Squared faces. And how many are they? We say there are 6 in number. And those 6 faces are put together to get how many corners? 8 corners. Now for the cuboid, let's see what similarities does it have with a cube and what are their differences if possible. What is a cuboid? A cuboid is also a solid shape. What type of solid shape is a cuboid? It is a solid shape with 3 dimensions. And these 3 dimensions here are, we talk about the length, the breadth, and the height. And this 3 dimension also qualifies it to become what? A solid shape. So in this case, what are the properties of a cuboid? One of them is it has 6 flat sides. I repeat, the first property is a cuboid has 6 flat sides. Like I said, we will always go to the object itself, count to confirm whether what we have on the board is true or false. We will solely do that. Another property is the opposite sides of the cuboid are said to be equal. When we say opposite sides, that is the 2 sides facing each other from either ends are supposed to be what? Equal. We will justify that. Now, I told you something about the flat side. What is this flat side? Now, these flat sides are the faces that are put together to build up the object that we call as the cuboid. So, can we look at the object and find out whether all what we said about the cuboid is true or false? Here is an object. This object is a cuboid. I want us to look at this object together and see whether the properties that we mentioned about the cuboid are true or false. Remember, we say seeing is believing. The first one is a cuboid has 6 flat sides. Let's confirm. Can you count with me? It has 6 flat sides. I want you to count with me, please. I start from this side. We have 1. This side is 2. This side is 3. We have 4. We have 5. And then 6. I will take it on again. I want you to count with me, please. Remember, seeing is believing. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, we have 5, and then 6. So it means it is true that a cuboid has 6 flat sides, also known as what? Faces. The next property we mention is the opposite sides are equal. Now, I want you to know that this side is opposite to this side. These 2 sides are said to be opposite. Now, because they are opposite, they are said to be equal. The material used in making this side is equal to the material used in making that side. So, therefore, they are said to be equal. Also, the material used in making this side is equal to the material used in making that side. Since the 2 sides are said to be opposite, we can say they are also equal. Then the other pair of sides is this other side and this other side are said to be opposite. And since they are opposite also, we can tell by looking that they are also equal. So the shape used in building this material are all rectangles. So it means the cuboid is made out of what? Rectangular shapes. Whilst the cuboid is made out of what? Squared shapes. There is one more property that I did not mention about the cuboid. And what is that property? The property is a cuboid has 8 vertices, also known as what? Corners. I will use corners in this case. We are told that a cuboid has 8 corners. Remember, I told you seeing is believing. Can we count from the cuboid I have in my hand to know whether a cuboid has 8 corners or not? Let's count and see. I start from this side, that's my right hand side. We are counting the corners, remember. Can we count together, please? We start 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we move to the left hand side. Remember, we have 4 on the right hand side. We continue counting. This is 5, 6, 7, and 8. Let's take it on again, please. We start counting from the right, then to the left, to see whether we have 8 corners in a cuboid. Can we count together, please? Let's start. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we move to the left hand side and we continue counting. Remember, we have 4 on the right. Now we move into the left. Can we continue counting? From 4, we count on 5, 6, 7, 8. So how many corners has a cuboid? We can say there are 8 corners in a cuboid. So we have discussed, I can say, all the properties of a cuboid that you need to know at this level. The next thing I will challenge you is, again, I want you to look around your households or your environment and tell what are some objects you can think of that are in the shape of a cuboid. Can you take some seconds to think about this question, please? I want you to take some seconds and look around your households or the environment that you are and tell what are some of the shapes around you that could be termed as cuboid. Can you do that, please? Okay, now let's move to the next slide and see what are other examples that we can give that are in the shape of cuboids. Examples of cuboids in our households, not your households, I'm part of it. Number 1 is matchbox. Matchbox. Remember, we use the match to set fire in our house or our households when cooking. Now, if you have a matchbox by your side, I want you to investigate based on the properties I have mentioned. Count the number of faces, the number of corners, and see if the number of faces are 6 and 8 corners with the opposite sides equal, then you can conclude by saying that the matchbox is an example of a cuboid. I have tried it and I want you to try it. Remember, I said seeing is believing. The second example we have is the mattress. Mattress, you call it locally as sponge, where you normally spend the night when sleeping. If you look at the mattress, it is made in such a way that it has a thickness, and that thickness gives it what? A height. So with the thickness that gives it the height, remember it is having a length and a width or a breadth. So because of those features, you can also classify the mattress as what? A cuboid. So the mattress is also an example. You can always investigate based on the properties that I told you to tell whether it is a cuboid or not a cuboid. Example 3 is the fridge. The fridge. If you look at the fridge, if you have any in your household, if you observe the fridge carefully, you will realize that it is also a cuboid because it is having the features or the properties of a cuboid. So the fridge is also an example. Another example that you can give apart from the fridge in your household could be the cupboard. The cupboard is also what? Having the shape of a cuboid if you look at it carefully. So because it possesses or have certain characteristics of a cuboid, it is therefore qualified to be termed as a cuboid. The fourth example we have is a book. I know some of you will doubt, book, cuboid? No. Yes, it is possible. The book can be termed as a cuboid. Why do we term the book here as a cuboid? If you have any book by your side, can you hold the book in your hand? Feel it. Remember, it is having a thickness. Okay? So, if you look at the book, like I have one of them here. Look at this textbook I have in my hand. The book is not just one. It is a combination of what? Papers put together to form the book. So a combination of those papers being added or put together give it the thickness. So that thickness also gives it what? A height. So that little height plus the length and the breadth gives it a 3 dimension. So because of those 3 dimensions, this book can be termed as a solid object, and it is therefore termed as a cuboid. Why do we term it as a cuboid? Because it is having 6 faces with 8 corners. So the book can be termed as an example of a cuboid. So with these 4 examples I have given, I did not exhaust all those objects or things that you can come across in our households or in our communities that can be termed as cuboids. Even the blackboards that you use in your classroom are cuboids. Never confuse them and term them as rectangles. They are not rectangles in a nutshell. They are what? Cuboids are not rectangles. Also, some may cite the doors of the classroom as what? And tables as rectangles. They are not rectangles, please, because they are not plane shapes. They are solid shapes, therefore we term them as what? Cuboids are not rectangles in that aspect. I hope you will take on that correction, please. Next, we have a cone. In our previous lesson, we identified cones based on certain features, if you can remember. We said a cone is a pyramid, and we were able to sort pyramids into 2 groups. Now, if you look at the cone, as you can see on the screen, for those viewing, what is a cone? A cone is a solid shape. It is a solid shape and also have 3 dimensions. Properties of a cone. The properties of a cone are a little bit different from that of a cube and a cuboid. The first property is a cone has a curved surface with one flat face that forms the bottom, or the flat surface is the part on which the cone normally rests on. The point on a cone where the edges meet is called the vertex. So these are the properties of the cone. Let's investigate. I have an example of a cone in my hand. Now we are told that it has one flat face. Now this is the flat face here that it normally rests on, and the flat face is circular. So that is one property it has. Also, we are told that the point on a cone is called the vertex. So this is called the vertex of the cone. It has only one vertex. Also, we are told that it has a curved surface. Where is the curved surface of the cone? This is the curved surface of the cone. The part that I am feeling with my hand forms the curved surface of the cone. So here I have given you 3 properties. That is the vertex. We also have the flat face, which is circular, and also the curved surface which is bent to form the shape cone. So these are the properties of a cone. I am ready to challenge you once again. I want you to tell what are some objects you can think of that are in the shape of a cone. In our previous lesson, I have given you a lot of examples when we were identifying and naming spheres and cones. So today I want to challenge you. What are some objects you can think of that are in the shape of a cone? Can you tell me some of the objects that you can think of that are in the shape of a cone, please? It will help you if you can find out as much as you can. Name some examples of objects that looks like cones in our surroundings. The first one is the ice cream. If you look at the ice cream, the shape of the ice cream is like that of a cone because it looks like this exactly, where the cream is mounted on the top. Is it not exactly like this? Of course, they look alike. So we can cite that as an example at the level that we are. We also have another example to some extent, not 100%, but if you look at the object itself, it has features that enables it to be termed as a cone since they look alike in some aspects. And what is that? It's the funnel. Although it has a tube, the funnel looks like this with a tube fixed at the what? The vertex that is used to transfer liquids from one container to another. If that is removed and the round or the curved surface is put together to form a sharp tip called the vertex, is that not a cone? So like I said, to some extent we can name the funnel as an example of a cone at the level that we are, please. Now, example 3 is the traffic cone. Maybe some of you don't know this traffic cone, but if you are using the traffic all the time, that is the road from Brikama to Banjul, most of these police officers use the traffic cone in regulating the traffic. Now, the traffic cone, like I said, to some extent could be used as an example of a cone, because most of them are in this shape, as you can see. It is orange in color. Normally put at a particular distance before where they will ask you to stop. So these traffic cones are used as what? Traffic regulators. So because they look like cones, we therefore cite them as examples of what? Cones. But mind you, not all of them can be termed as cones because of what? They don't have a sharp tip that forms the vertex. Please take note of that. I'm stressing that point, please. Another example we have is the megaphone. The megaphone also can be used as an example of a cone to some extent. And the other example there is the party hat. During Christmas parties, we have those hats that we normally decorate and put on our heads. Normally, they are also made out of this shape. So normally these are things that we put on our heads and they form what? The hats that we use in celebrating our parties. So the party hat also have features of a cone. So in this case we cite it as an example of a cone at the level that we are. So I have given you 5 examples of things that we can associate to what? A cone. Can you find time to name other objects or other examples that can be termed as cones in our environments? Of course, you can do that. Not now, but you can do it during your leisure times because it can always help. In this slide, we have some pictures on the screen. The first one is the ice cream. Remember, I mentioned the ice cream here. If you look at the shape of the ice cream, obviously it's just like the cone, as you can see. They look alike. All right? Now, the second one is the party hat. You can see that. Remember, I demonstrated by putting it on my head. If I should remove this party hat and put it on my head, it's just like the cone I have in my hand. So the round ball at the top there is just fastened. It is put there to decorate the hat. But if you look at it properly, it is having the features of a cone. Like I said, at the level that we are. Next to that is we have another picture. And the picture that we have is the traffic cone. I stress something here, that is the tip here need to be what? A very sharp tip for us to qualify it as a cone in a real life situation. But some of them are there that have a very sharp tip, not in this case. So because it has features that resemble a cone, we want to qualify it in this case as a cone. But like I said, the level that we are dealing with, here we are just identifying and naming. But when you move gradually along the line in your learning process, you will come across a lot of changes and then accept them along the line. But at this stage, we are helping you to learn how to identify and name things that can be associated to cones, cubes, and cuboids. Now we move to the next slide. I have an exercise for you. With all that we discuss, I want to test your understanding and see whether you can tell or answer some of the questions that we have. My first question is, let's look at the object or the shape on the screen. What shape is it? For those listening, he is a die. A die used to play Ludo. Now, the question is, how many faces does the die have? I repeat. How many faces does the die have? I want your answers, please. Can you tell how many faces does the dice have or the die have? Take your time, count the number of sides, and you can give your answer, always. Don't just mention numbers freely, anyhow you feel like. It doesn't work like that. You need to count and then know that what I have done is the right thing. How many faces does the die have? The correct answer to the question is, the die have 6 faces. It has 6 faces. So when someone asks you, how many faces does a die have? What should be your answer? The answer is, a die have 6 faces. A die has 6 faces. Let's move to the next slide. We have another shape on the screen. In our previous slides, I made mention about this shape. What shape are you seeing on the screen? What shape are you seeing on the screen? For those listening, the shape on the screen is a cuboid. The shape is a cuboid. Now the question to the cuboid is, how many corners can you see? How many corners can you see? Or for those listening, how many corners has a cuboid? How many corners has a cuboid? Can you take your time to count and give the correct answer? Can you take your time to count the number of corners of a cuboid and give the answer? The correct answer is, it has 8 corners. It has 8 corners. I hope you will take it from there. The cuboid has 8 corners. Now the next question is the shape we have on the screen. Like that in the previous slides. What shape can you see on the screen for those viewing? The shape is a cone. It is a cone. Now the question to the cone is, how many faces can you see? Remember, we center in our attention to the flat surface. How many faces can you see? Your attention should be on the flat face. How many faces can you see? The correct answer is it has 1 flat face. So the correct answer is 1 face. Let's move to the next slide. This takes us to the final slide, which is try question. Now, in this try question, name 3 objects in your house for each 3D solid shape, where the 3D means 3 dimension. Remember here, we talk about the thickness, which is perhaps going to give you the height, the length, and the breadth. Name 3 objects in your house for each 3-dimension shape or solid shape. The name of the solid shapes are: 1, we have cube. 1, we have cube. You just draw your table for those listening. The first solid shape is cube. The second one is cuboid. 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 The third one is cone. Cone. The third solid shape is cone. Now that's going to be your first column. Now when you draw the first column, you add 3 more columns. You label them as object 1, object 2, and object 3. So in each of the columns, you are going to name 1 cube, you name 1 cuboid, and 1 cone. On that note, this brings us to the end of today's lesson. I will end the lesson here for now until I come your way in our next class. On that note, I thank you all. Bye-bye.
there! You must have heard about a new viral disease called COVID-19.